Question of the day, ladies and gentlemen. Will the Texans make a move to contend in the AFC? We already know Nick Caserio. He's a wheeler and dealer, especially during the draft. He trades more than almost anybody. Maybe him and Howie Roseman of the Philadelphia Eagles are the top two. But as we get near and near the trade deadline, reminder, it's after the Texans' Week 9 game up against the Denver Broncos. Do you think the Texans are going to try to make a move to contend? Let me know down in the comment section. That is the number one question in today's program because I think the Texans could, in fact, make a move nearing the trade deadline if they want to improve this roster and become legit contenders in the AFC. All right, let's look at some positions and needs first. Offensive line. I think that is the number one position where all Texans fans are going to first go to because that's been the biggest talking point over the past, year and a half, 2 years, is this offensive line. And we've talked about a lot of these guys already on the program. Evan Neal, he was brought up in a Bleacher Report trade article. We talked about him, the pros and cons of maybe signing the former first-round pick out of Alabama. He was a tackle, now plays predominantly guard, and he's a big boy, 6'7", 340 pounds. And we do know DeMeco Ryans loves himself some Alabama prospects. So he is an option that we could look at nearing the trade deadline. I think this would be a 6th or 7th round pick if they're looking to trade for a guy like Evan Neal. We also discussed Jackson Powers-Johnson. The wheels seem like they're sort of, coming off in Las Vegas. Pete Carroll is slowly losing that locker room. Jackson Powers-Johnson was a healthy scratch, a benched guy for multiple games during this season already. He's arguably the best offensive lineman that the Raiders have. If they're looking to have a complete reboot, a rebuild, everything, I know it doesn't make that much sense because he's a younger guy, but there has been some friction between him and Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly came out and said, I don't know why everybody is clamoring over this guy. He's not that good. I mean, he was basically saying, you know what? Everybody says they want Jackson Powers-Johnson to start at center. I don't think he's the best center on this team, which maybe Chip Kelly, maybe the Powers get into his head once again because that's absolutely crazy. We talked about this one, and this would probably be a mid-round pick, like a 3rd or 4th round pick to get a guy like a Jackson Powers-Johnson nearing the trade deadline. And another one that I saw on Twitter, which I haven't talked about yet, Erik McCoy from the New Orleans Saints. He's a center guard a center guard in the NFL and is a really good player. The Saints, obviously, only one win on the year? So they could be sellers as well. I'm looking at teams that could be sellers near the deadline, and Erik McCoy is another intriguing option if the Texans want to upgrade at the offensive line spot. But this is going to be a hot take for y'all. I actually kind of like where the Texans' offensive line is right now. I would probably focus on other areas of improvement near the trade deadline because I actually think the Texans' offensive line is in a pretty decent spot. Jake Andrews has been playing better and better. I also think Jarrett Patterson is a decent option there at the center spot. I like Juice Scruggs at left guard. He's been playing much better now that they moved him from center to guard and kind of taken away his starting spot, had to earn it back from Laken Tomlinson. I liked what I've seen out of the former 2nd round pick from Penn State in Juice Scruggs. And then right guard Ed Ingram, he's been actually the 2nd highest rated guard according to PFF during this season. You have the tackles, Ariante Ursary at left tackle, Titus Howard at right tackle. So weirdly enough, I actually don't think the Texans need to trade for an offensive lineman at this point. If they want, a rotation guy, maybe like an Evan Neal for a late round pick, that would make a little bit of sense. But I don't think that's the most pressing need for this Texans team right now. I actually think this spot might be the most pressing need. Tight end. Now, call me crazy, but I think the Texans do need another tight end. I really believe Nick Caley, offensive coordinator for the Houston Texans, had a big plan for the Texans tight end room. But then you saw them drop like flies. Brevin Jordan, season-ending injury before the year even got going. Cade Stover, hairline fracture in his foot. He could return at some point. We don't know when that will be. Harrison Bryant, we traded for him from the Philadelphia Eagles. He's been a decent addition. Brendan Bates as well. But I still think you could upgrade. If the Texans had more talent in the tight end room, I think this offense could be that much better. Dalton Schultz has been showing out the past couple weeks, and Nick Caley, I think he likes to scheme those tight ends open. We don't really have a lot of weapons, though, at the tight end spot. So coming up, I'm going to break down a couple tight ends that I think the Texans could look at if they want to upgrade that position near the trade deadline. Before I get into those guys, quick word from our sponsor. I love PrizePicks, and I know you will too. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every single day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in more than 40 states, including California, Texas, Florida, and Georgia. And it's super simple. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your pick right, you can cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. And huge game. My alma mater, I went to the University of North Texas, and they have maybe the biggest game in school history this Friday. UNT versus 24th ranked USF. Whoever wins that, they have a good chance at getting some playoff ball. I didn't think I would ever say that as a, alumnus of the University of North Texas, but here we are. I put in a lineup for college football. Caleb Hawkins, their freshman running back. I'm going more on the 0.5 rushing and receiving touchdowns. Drew Messemaker, our amazing quarterback. I'm going more on the 2.5 passing touchdowns. Wyatt Young, the young receiver. Give me 30.5 receiving yards. Give me the more. Fernando Mendoza, because you can't just do one team. You got to add a couple more. Indiana, I think he'll go more on that passing yards. And Arch Manning, even though he's been basura, I think he will, in fact, get 1 touchdown in that Red River rivalry. You can use my lineup or go ahead and use your own. Just do it with our friends over at Prize Picks. It's the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are going off? Which ones aren't? Hey, just make your picks in less than 60 seconds, and you can turn those sports opinions into real money all season long. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. All right, so I mentioned a couple tight ends. It's lucky enough for the Texans, there's multiple good tight ends that are on the trade block. I talked to our Ravens host, Joey Peterson. He said Mark Andrews could definitely be available for the right price. I don't know if that's a 3rd-round pick, a 4th-round pick. But Andrews is really good. And if the Texans are able to add a talent like him, that would go a ways into upgrading this offense and upgrading the weapons around C.J. Stroud. Another one, and it's funny enough because Zach Rose, he literally just put it in our live chat. If you don't know, I'm making this video during my live show Wednesdays every week at 3:30. I go live. He said, Njoku, you'll probably have to pay him if you trade for him. He's on the trade block as well, and you are 100% right, Zach Rose. That's maybe the one detractor of getting a guy like a David Njoku because, he's young. You'll still have to pay him. Could the Texans look to do that? Maybe, tight ends, I don't think right now a guy of David Njoku's, status, I don't think he'll go for a crazy amount, but still it'll cost you a pretty penny to go ahead and trade for and then sign a guy like a David Njoku. I have a question for you because I think those are the top 2 tight ends that all Texans fans are looking at if we want to trade for a big name. So go down in the comment section and let me know. You had to pick one, Mark Andrews or David Njoku. Who would you trade for? Give me an MA for Mark Andrews. Give me a DN for David Njoku. I think these 2 guys, if you get either of them, that takes this Texans offense to a whole nother level. Let me know who you got. Mark Andrews, David Njoku. I'll be looking down in the comments section. Lastly, go to the defensive side. I think the only part that we are looking at in this defense that needs an upgrade is in the secondary. And it's not necessarily starting guys, even though a couple of these guys could definitely be traded to teams and start. You just need depth because the guys who are starting, they're good, but I think you could use a couple extra guys in depth pieces. I do have one guy at in the back half that I do think could be a starter for this Texans team. Let's look at some backup options first. Rig Woolen, the former UTSA product, drafted by the Seahawks, has been there for a little bit. He's not overworn his welcome, but the Seahawks have a lot of young corners that they like more than Rig Woolen. So if they want to move off from him, maybe somebody who the Texans can nag, and if they want to move pieces around or, God forbid any of our players get injured, he's a good backup option for this Texans squad. Still on that rookie deal, that could be an interesting option. Another expensive option, kind of like his teammate in Cleveland, David Njoku, Greg Newsome would be another more expensive option that you would have to pay for as a cornerback, can slide in there, be a backup, be a, spot starter for you, can help out. He plays nickel, can play outside as well. I don't mind the idea of looking at a guy like a Greg Newsome as well. And this is the guy who I think could start with this team. And funny enough, he was actually drafted by your Houston Texans. Justin Reid, now a member of the New Orleans Saints, and they have a couple safeties that are younger than him that I think could definitely take over if the Saints wanted to get off of Justin Reid's contract. And if the Texans are looking to replace that safety position in C.J. Gardner-Johnson, M.J. Stewart, he's played really well. You also have the rookie Jalen Reed, who I think can step in. Jimmy Ward is another guy who's coming off injury, could possibly step in. If those guys don't cut it, though, by week 9 and you really want to upgrade the safety position, if you're looking for a starter, I actually think Justin Reid might be the best option for a starting safety in the trade market. Obviously, like I said, was drafted by the Houston Texans, has been around the league a little bit, played for the Kansas City Chiefs for a bit of time. I think he'd be a decent option if you want to look, and the New Orleans Saints, I think, would be more than happy to oblige because they are looking to rebuild. They are not trying to win this year. They are trying to set up themselves up for the future. So maybe a 4th or 5th round pick could get it done for Justin Reid as they try to get off of a guy who doesn't really fit their timeline for winning in New Orleans. Now, I did say during my live show I would mention this guy, and funny enough, he was my bonus name for the trade target. I don't necessarily think the Texans need to add a running back, but everybody keeps on linking the Houston Texans to Breece Hall, the Jets running back. And I wouldn't be upset if the Texans went ahead and traded for a guy like Breece Hall. I do think that would take a lot of carries away and take a lot of opportunities away from Woody Marks. So that's my biggest detractor. I think Nick Chubb, Woody Marks is already a really good 1-2 punch. I don't know if you necessarily need to add another guy to this running back room. I think at the end of the day, Joe Mixon will return towards the back half of this season. But a lot of people like the idea of getting Breece Hall. Like I said, I wouldn't mind it. I don't know what the Jets would even want in a trade for a Breece Hall. If it's a 5th, 6th, 7th round pick, sure. I'm all in on getting Breece Hall. But if it's like a 3rd or 4th round pick, no way would I want to get Breece Hall because, like I said, I like Woody Marks. I want to see him get the carries. And if you bring in a guy like Breece Hall, that means the Woody Marks dream, it's not dead, but it's definitely shattered a little bit because he will not get nearly the amount of touches if you bring in a guy like Hall than if it was him and Nick Chubb. All right, that's all I got for you on today's show, folks. Hit me up on Twitter if you have any questions, if you have any concerns, or if you think everything I said today was absolutely stupid. You can always hit me up in my DMs at Jeremy Chuggs. And if you made it to the end of today's video, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Daily Texans content all year long here on Texans Today.